The strategic math of the Pacific has officially caught up with the Pentagon. The era of the silver bullet fleet is over, and the US Air Force is suddenly scrambling to rewrite its entire bomber timeline before a fatal window of vulnerability opens. Welcome back to Red Phantom. Today, we are pushing past the Pentagon press releases to look at the classified force planning math, the catastrophic readiness rates of the legacy fleet, and the exact leaps in material science driving America's newest stealth bomber. Let's look at the data. To understand the urgency behind Washington's bomber panic, we have to look at the catastrophic readiness rates of the current fleet. The stated inventory objective for the B21 has long been a minimum of 100 aircraft to replace the B1B and B2. But 100 aircraft is a raid force, not a campaign force. The current bomber fleet is physically exhausted. As of fiscal year 2024, the B1 Lancer sits at an abysmal 43.44% mission-capable rate. The B2 Spirit is barely better at 55.04%, and the B-52 Stratofortress is at 53.77%. Furthermore, the average age of a USAF aircraft has nearly doubled over the last 3 decades to almost 32 years old. When you factor in depot maintenance, training squadrons and rotational reserves, a 100-jet B-21 fleet leaves the US with only 30 to 40 bombers actually ready to fight on day one. Mark Gunzinger, a former B-52 pilot and director at the Mitchell Institute for Aerospace Studies, ran the wargame numbers and warned that to successfully penetrate and neutralize deep interior targets in a China-focused scenario, the Air Force absolutely requires a minimum of 225 B-21 Raiders. The Pentagon finally realizes that without penetrating mass, they lose. If any of you have ever owned a vintage Jaguar or a 1980s Alfa Romeo, you already understand the logistical nightmare of the B-2 Spirit. It is a breathtaking piece of engineering, but you spend 50 hours turning wrenches in the garage just to take it out for a 1-hour Sunday drive. This is not an exaggeration. The B-2 requires a staggering 50 to 119 maintenance man-hours for every single hour of flight. Its 1980s-era radar-absorbent material, RAM, is hydrophilic, meaning it absorbs moisture and degrades in sunlight, forcing the Air Force to baby the aircraft inside specialized multi-million-dollar deployable hangars. This fragility drives the B-2's operating costs to an astronomical $150,000 to over $200,000 per flight hour, not to mention a grueling 400-day programmed depot maintenance (PDM) cycle every 7 years. The B-21 Raider was engineered specifically to kill this Hangar Queen curse. It utilizes a next-generation chemically stable RAM coating that is baked in during the manufacturing process, rather than applied via fragile tapes and corks by exhausted airmen on the flight line. The B-21 is built to be the heavy-duty fleet truck of the Air Force, capable of deploying to austere, salty runways in the Indo-Pacific without requiring a climate-controlled bubble. By drastically reducing touch labor, the Air Force is targeting a cost of roughly $65,000 per flight hour for the B-21. This financial and mechanical efficiency means the B-21 will achieve a sortie generation rate (SGR) that allows a smaller physical fleet to deliver an exponentially higher volume of strikes over a 30-day campaign, effectively doubling America's presence hours per dollar. This brings us to the operational reality of the Raider over the Pacific. We talk a lot about the F-35 and the F-47 on this channel, but tactical fighters are entirely dependent on slow, highly vulnerable aerial refueling tankers to cross the ocean. The B-21 bypasses this vulnerability entirely. Prioritizing aerodynamic efficiency over raw payload size, the Raider is projected to achieve an unrefueled range exceeding 6,000 nautical miles. But it's not just a bomb truck lobbing missiles from afar. The B-21 is built for sanctuary denial. It is designed to physically penetrate the most heavily defended anti-access/area denial A2/AD threat rings in the world. Instead of firing million-dollar standoff cruise missiles from a distance, the B-21 slips completely undetected over enemy territory to drop highly precise, relatively cheap direct attack munitions directly onto hardened targets, completely collapsing the enemy's logistical safe havens. The production surge isn't just about bending metal faster. It's about pushing America's most advanced flying computer to the front lines. Unlike legacy bombers with hardwired avionics that take years to upgrade, the B-21 utilizes a modular open systems approach. Through heavy investment in digital twin technology and edge computing, Northrop Grumman has already reduced the aircraft's software certification time by 50%. This means that as the threat environment changes, the B-21 software can be updated in days, not years. This open architecture transforms the bomber from a standalone strike platform into an advanced multi-domain sensor node, capable of quarterbacking swarms of autonomous drones and feeding real-time targeting data back to the Navy. The aircraft's physical stealth gets it through the door, but its digital architecture ensures it outsmarts whatever it finds inside. Because of this brutal mathematical reality, the US Air Force and Northrop Grumman just executed a $4.5 billion agreement to immediately expand the B-21 Raider's annual production capacity by 25%. To put the scale of this acceleration into perspective, the Pentagon plans to execute the entire $4.5 billion package this fiscal year alone, allocating nearly $2.4 billion strictly to research and development and another $2.1 billion directly into immediate procurement. Furthermore, Northrop Grumman's CEO confirmed the company will match this government surge by investing an additional $2 billion to $3 billion of its own capital into facility expansions to handle the increased throughput. Historically, the secretive bomber has been locked in a low-rate initial production phase designed to yield just 21 aircraft across its first 5 lots, with a baseline production rate originally capped at roughly 7 airframes per year. This 25% capacity increase physically breaks that bottleneck, pushing peak production towards 10 aircraft annually. This emergency funding, authorized under the fiscal year 2025 reconciliation legislation, is designed to artificially compress delivery timelines and force operational aircraft onto the ramp at Ellsworth Air Force Base by 2027. The US isn't just buying airplanes, they are buying their way out of a strategic deficit before the window of deterrence closes. When you look at the $700 million per unit price tag of the B-21, it is easy to suffer from sticker shock, but deterrence is not cheap, and weakness is exponentially more expensive. The US Air Force just spent $4.5 billion simply to speed up the assembly line. The era of the low-volume silver bullet fleet is over. Penetrating mass is now the ultimate instrument of American warfighting. But this brings us to the ultimate strategic question, and we want to hear you in the comments section. Does this 25% production increase prove the Air Force is quietly preparing to double its original order to 225 bombers, or will budgetary politics force the US to fight a 2030 Pacific War with an undersized fleet? Drop your analysis below. This is Red Phantom. Stay informed, stay skeptical, and think beyond the first strike.